Mr. Fehr, welcome back to the show. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. I'm glad to do it. And I just want to let you know, having listened to the last 30 seconds or so of your previous commentary, it's yet another indication professional athletes are different than the rest of us.
Yes, they're wired a little differently, Donald. Yes, no doubt. Donald, I want to start off by saying I saw the Zoom conference call that you and Bill Daly and Gary Bettman and Matthew Schneider had Saturday, and it lasted 48 minutes. And I'm saying this honestly, I've never seen a conference call or a press conference where more people were yawning throughout the entire thing. The fatigue that was evident because of what had just gone on here, and I'm saying this seriously, was clear. Walk us through, Donald, how unique this was, considering how many CBA negotiations you've been through. How unique was this, considering how short of an amount of time everyone had to hammer it out?
I can tell you what I've told the players more than once, and that is that this was unlike anything I've been through. I've been doing this for more than 40 years, and never in circumstances like this, never in circumstances where the parties are not in control of their own destiny, never in circumstances in which you couldn't grab the other guy and say, walk out in the hall with me, or can we go to the bar around the corner, or make judgments based upon interaction where you couldn't have group meetings or anything like that. And so it was really difficult. And on the union side, it was even more difficult because what we're used to being able to do is we can go and meet with the players one-on-one, answer questions, team by team, get a real sense of what they want. And it's just not the same when you're doing it on a conference call with 50 or 100 or 200 players on it, which we had. The last part is that essentially it was somewhere between 10 to 14 or more hours a day, 7 days a week, from the middle of March until we settled. Most of the time on the phone, most of the time actually talking to players and agents, and most of the time telling them that I didn't have answers to their very legitimate questions because nobody did at the time. So this was a pretty long haul.
So this is so intricate because there are two separate negotiations, but they're obviously linked. You've got the health side of things, but you also have the financial health of the league and what that means for the monetary concerns of the players moving forward. Which side of the two was more difficult to find resolutions for?
I don't know that I can put a label on it, except that when it comes to the health and safety issues, we know a couple of things. We know, first of all, that the public health authorities are going to weigh in, and they will put distinct limitations on time and method of operation and all that kind of stuff, which we're going to need to live with, obviously, for the good of everyone. And secondly, our own doctors that we retain and that the NHL retain are going to be in a position of saying, this is what you need to do. And it's not only that you need to figure that out, you also have to be able to implement it. And there was a decision made early on. I don't think overtly over the table, but I think separately by Gary and by me, that in the end, we will defer to the doctors on all the health and safety issues, which is basically what's happened and what will continue to happen. The economic side was brand new and different in the sense that no sport in North American history, no major sport since World War II at least, has ever suffered a sudden, precipitous, calamitous drop in revenue with the uncertainty of, are you going to be able to come back and how soon and in what form, and are you going to have your normal revenue sources? And that creates different challenges that you have to work through. I don't know that I can say one's harder than the other, but they all had to be done at once. And I know some people are going to say, well, but you had the completing this season to get done, and next season will take care of itself. Well, except it won't, because we have to allow for the very real possibility that revenue is going to be off next year again, and maybe for some time after that. work through, to do what we can do to keep the business open and to make sure the fans see real first-class hockey. And at the same time, make sure that all the health and safety protocols are adhered to. And it'll actually be harder in the fall because we won't be in bubbles. Hopefully we won't be in bubbles. Hopefully we'll be playing in home arenas. So we'll see. I think I have run-on sentence disease today. I apologize for that.
No, please.
I see it.
Please. Donald Fehr, Executive Director of the National Hockey League Players Association, here on Tim and Sid. One of the topics that has popped up now and again, Donald, in terms of the players, are when reports have surfaced of a player testing positive. And is it a big deal? I'm talking from a fan's perspective. Is it a big deal if it's reported by someone else or if the team announces it? What is the issue? I think this is a very simple question to answer, but I'll defer to you, Donald. Why was it important for the players in this agreement to have the league run point in terms of announcing positive tests and only have news out of a positive test by the specific player if they wanted it to be out? Why was the privacy so important?
Well, it's important because rumors can run crazy, and very often you don't know what the results are right away. Plus the fact that as a general rule in the United States and in Canada, personal medical information is kept confidential. So what you're doing is trying to walk a fine line, trying to engage in a balancing act, if you will, between very real and legitimate privacy and health concerns on the one hand, and the impetus to explain to the fans what you're doing on the other. The fact that we are in a situation no one's ever been in, at least not within the lifetime of anybody that's around now, makes it more complicated, and you're feeling your way. And we're all trying to do the best we can.
There is a real concern or fear. It's not a certainty, but it's a possibility of a second wave. How did that concern weigh into the negotiations?
Well, it got in there two ways. The first one is when you look out long term, you're trying to figure out how long could we be living with this, with the disruption or limitations on normal operations of NHL teams that you might expect. Secondly, I suppose to a limited extent, it plays into when you might want to try and finish this season. I think a lot of people believe that if there is going to be a second wave, and I'm not the person to ask as to whether there's going to be one, or if so, how severe or when, but if there's going to be one, you sort of want to play around it, if you can. As it turns out, hopefully we'll be successful. We'll be able to play the playoffs. We'll end in about 10 weeks, I guess. And then we'll take a few weeks off, figure out how to start the season again. And we're all hoping for the best in terms of the greatest amount of return to normalcy as we can. But we'll see.
Finally, Donald, have you gotten a good night's sleep since Friday?
No, but I have slept a long time since Friday. My days and nights are all turned around and screwed up, and it's the normal thing you would expect. You're running on coffee and adrenaline against all kinds of deadlines, real and perceived, trying to negotiate a complicated series of agreements in what can only be described as a cumbersome fashion, and it takes its toll. And if I was 35 again, I might not be as fatigued as I am, but that was a long time ago.
Well, Donald, on behalf of a lot of hockey fans out there listening and watching, your effort is very much appreciated in all of this. And it was a minor miracle kind of what was pulled off when you look at historically what has gone on in the National Hockey League. And we thank you, and we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
You got it. Thanks.